A former casino slot technician with 12 years of experience servicing machines across three major Las Vegas properties just revealed information that could fundamentally change how you approach gambling. This individual, who spent over a decade with direct access to internal programming data, training documents, and manufacturer specifications, is sharing secrets that casinos spend millions of dollars ensuring you never learn. What you're about to discover represents 10 specific pieces of insider knowledge that could potentially save you thousands of dollars. These are details that other ex-employees have been actively encouraged not to share, often through legal agreements and industry pressure. Secret number 7 is particularly significant because it's actually what made this technician ultimately walk away from a six-figure career in the gaming industry. Let's get straight into what casinos absolutely don't want you knowing. Secret number 1, the placement strategy. Casinos don't randomly position slot machines on their gaming floors. According to former floor managers and surveillance operators, every single machine placement is determined through sophisticated heat mapping technology and real-time player tracking data analysis. The loosest machines, meaning those with the highest return to player percentages, are never positioned near entrances, cashier cages, or buffet lines. Internal documents from major casino operators show that machines located in high traffic areas are consistently programmed with RTPs that are 3 to 5% lower than identical machine models positioned in other sections of the same casino floor. A former floor manager named Mike, who spent 8 years in that role at a prominent strip property, discussed how quarterly strategy meetings specifically focused on placement optimization to maximize revenue extraction. The psychological manipulation behind this strategy is deliberate and calculated. Casinos position their tightest machines, those with the lowest payout percentages, in locations where players are naturally distracted or operating in a hurry. When you're walking past machines on your way to cash out your chips or grabbing a quick session before heading to the buffet, you're statistically sitting at machines programmed to take your money faster than the identical game would in a different location. This means you could be playing the exact same slot machine title with the same graphics and the same bonus features, but depending on where that machine physically sits on the casino floor, your mathematical odds of winning are dramatically different. Former technicians confirm that they've serviced machines where the only variable was location, yet performance reports showed vastly different hold percentages. One penny slot near the main cashier cage held an average of 18% of money played, while the identical machine model tucked in a back corner held only 12%. A difference that represents thousands of dollars per day in additional casino profit from that single strategic placement decision. But machine placement is just the beginning of what these insiders have revealed. Secret number 2, the myth of hot and cold machines. Players across the country believe that slot machines run in cycles, that a machine that hasn't paid out recently is due for a win, or that a machine that just hit a jackpot won't pay again for a while. This belief is so widespread that you'll see players jumping from machine to machine trying to find one that's hot, or camping at a machine for hours because they're convinced it's about to hit. The insider truth, however, is dramatically different from this popular belief. Random number generators, the computer chips that determine every spin outcome, run continuously and independently even when the machine isn't being played. According to internal training documents used to educate new slot technicians, these RNG systems cycle through thousands of potential number combinations every single second. The specific outcome of your spin is determined in the exact microsecond that you press the spin button. There is no memory, no cycle, no pattern. Previous spins have absolutely zero effect on future results. Every single spin is an independent event with the same mathematical odds as the spin before it and the spin after it. A regular player named Sandra spent 6 hours tracking a particular Buffalo Gold machine at a downtown property because she was convinced it was due for a major bonus round. She documented every spin, calculated how long it had been since the last free spins trigger, and determined based on her observations that the machine had to hit within the next hour. She invested over $400 in that session based on this belief. The machine never triggered the bonus round during her entire session, and according to the floor data, It didn't trigger for another 2 hours after she finally gave up and left. Casino management not only knows that players believe in hot and cold machines, they actively encourage this belief because it keeps players locked at the same machine for extended periods, feeding in money based on a complete mathematical fallacy. And speaking of things casinos want you to believe, what they've programmed into the actual real display is even more psychologically manipulative than these manufactured myths about machine cycles. Secret number 3, the illusion of near misses. This represents perhaps the single most psychologically manipulative programming technique that casinos have implemented into modern slot machines. Former technicians who had direct access to programming specifications and internal design documents revealed that the reels are deliberately weighted to show jackpot symbols landing just above or just below the pay line, far more frequently than true random chance would dictate. Internal programming specs that were reviewed during technician certification courses show that near miss frequency is engineered to be 30 to 40% higher than what genuine random distribution would produce. To understand how this manipulation actually works, you need to know about virtual reel technology. The physical reels that you see spinning on the machine don't actually match the real mathematical odds of what you're playing. A physical reel might display 22 visible stops that you can count with your own eyes, but the computer chip controlling that reel is programmed with 256 virtual stops that determine the actual outcome. Here's a concrete example of how this deception operates in practice. A particular jackpot symbol might appear 6 times on the physical reel that's visible to you as a player. Based on what you can see, you'd calculate that symbol has a 6 in 22 chance of landing on the pay line. But in the virtual reel programming that actually controls the outcome, that same jackpot symbol might only be assigned to hit once in every 10,000 virtual spins. You're seeing something that appears to have roughly a 27% chance of occurring, when the real mathematical probability is 0.01%. Documentation exists of a player at a locals casino who became so frustrated with near misses that he actually started photographing them. Over the course of 200 spins on a triple red hot sevens machine, he captured 47 photographs showing the jackpot symbol landing directly above or directly below the pay line. In those same 200 spins, he never once actually won the jackpot. When he showed these photographs to a floor supervisor and asked if the machine was broken, he was told the machine was operating exactly as programmed. That phrase, operating exactly as programmed, is the key to understanding this manipulation. The near-miss programming creates a completely false sense of almost winning that keeps players feeding money into machines at a dramatically higher rate than they would if the display accurately represented the true odds. The psychological damage this causes is measurable and documented. Players consistently overestimate their chances of winning because their brain interprets these near misses as evidence that they're getting close, that the jackpot is within reach, that just a few more spins will finally line up correctly. This is technically legal because gaming regulations focus on whether the RNG is functioning randomly and whether the posted RTP percentage is accurate. There's no law against programming the display to be deliberately misleading about how close you actually came to winning. Former employees who worked in slot operations consistently report that this was one aspect of the job they genuinely hated. When players would approach them excited or frustrated about how many times they almost hit the jackpot, these technicians knew the truth but couldn't explain that those near misses were manufactured psychological manipulation rather than legitimate evidence of close calls. They had to smile and encourage the player to keep trying, while knowing the display was intentionally programmed to create false hope. But if you think the near-miss programming is manipulative, what casinos have done with bonus rounds represents an even deeper level of manufactured deception. Secret number 4. The truth about bonus rounds. Every spinning wheel, every pick-a-prize selection screen, every interactive bonus feature that appears to give you choices or control over the outcome is pure theater. The actual result of the bonus round is predetermined in the exact microsecond that the bonus triggers. Former slot technicians who had access to machine test modes confirmed that the bonus outcome is calculated instantly by the RNG, and everything that happens on screen after that moment is simply a reveal animation designed to create excitement and engagement. Those interactive bonuses where the game lets you pick between different treasure chests, or spin a wheel to determine your prize, or select different symbols to reveal cash amounts. Your choice doesn't matter at all. The outcome was locked in before you touched the screen. Technicians who serviced machines with touchscreen bonus features have run these games in diagnostic mode and watched the system assign a bonus win amount before the selection screen even appears. The predetermined nature of these features isn't just a technical detail, it's a deliberately designed deception. Why would casinos program elaborate bonus animations that can take 30 to 90 seconds to play out when they could just instantly display your win amount? Because extended bonus animations dramatically increase time on device metrics and create emotional investment in outcomes that were never actually in your control. Take the Wheel of Fortune slot machine as a specific example. When you trigger the bonus spin, you get to press a button that appears to determine when the wheel stops spinning. Former technicians who maintained these machines confirm that the wheel is already programmed for exactly where it will land before you ever touch that button. The button press triggers the stopping animation, but the outcome was determined the moment the bonus round activated. A player named James developed elaborate strategies for the timing of his button presses during bonus rounds. He was convinced that pressing at specific moments during the wheel rotation would influence where it landed. Over a 3-month period, he documented his various timing strategies in a notebook, recording which approaches seemed to yield better results. He invested over $15,000 testing these strategies. The reality that he never understood was that every single one of those bonus outcomes was calculated before his button press even registered, making his entire strategic system completely meaningless. Internal emails that have been leaked from casino operations departments specifically describe bonus rounds as engagement theater. These communications discuss how the animation length and interactivity create player investment in outcomes while maintaining optimal hold percentages. One particular email chain from a regional casino director discussed how adding 10 seconds to bonus animation length increased average session time by 12% without changing any mathematical odds or payout frequencies. The cruel element of this system is that players genuinely believe some level of skill or timing or decision making is involved in these bonus rounds. They develop superstitions and strategies and beliefs about what works. They press buttons at specific moments. They hover their finger over different selection options, trying to sense which one contains the bigger prize. They're engaging with what they believe is a game of partial skill when in reality, it's purely predetermined chance dressed up as interaction. Casino operators know exactly what they're doing with this programming choice, and they've invested millions in bonus animation development, specifically because the psychological engagement works to keep players at machines longer and betting more money. And the predetermined nature of bonus rounds leads directly into another financial manipulation that most players never recognize until it's far too late. Secret number 5, the denomination trap. The same slot machine game sitting on the casino floor in 3 different denomination configurations represents 3 completely different mathematical propositions, and casinos deliberately avoid making this information transparent. Internal pair sheets, which are the probability accounting reports that manufacturers provide to casinos, consistently show that penny versions of popular games are programmed with RTPs that are 5 to 8 percentage points lower than the dollar versions of the identical game. A former slot director who reviewed these pair sheets as part of regular floor performance analysis confirmed that this practice isn't an occasional occurrence or limited to specific manufacturers. It's a standard industry approach across virtually all multi-denomination games. The mathematical breakdown reveals why this matters so dramatically to your actual losses. When you're playing a penny version of Buffalo or Dancing Drums at 85% RTP, the machine is programmed to return $85 for every $100 wagered over the long term. That same game at the dollar denomination is typically programmed for 92% RTP, returning $92 per 100 wagered. That 7% difference might sound relatively modest until you calculate the compounding effect over an actual playing session. Consider a realistic scenario where you're playing 500 spins in a session at $1 per spin. which totals $500 wagered. At the penny denomination with 85% RTP, you're mathematically expected to finish that session with $425 returned, meaning you lost $75. At the dollar denomination with 92% RTP, that same $500 total wagered returns $460, meaning you only lost $40. The denomination choice just cost you an additional $35 in losses for the exact same game, the exact same number of spins, the exact same total amount wagered. Scale that difference across regular players who visit casinos weekly or monthly, and the denomination trap extracts thousands of additional dollars annually from players who believe they're making a conservative choice by betting smaller amounts. Dorothy was a retired teacher who played slots twice a week at her local tribal casino. For years, she played dollar denomination machines and typically budgeted $200 per visit. She'd usually play for 90 minutes to 2 hours before exhausting her bankroll, and she accepted this as the entertainment cost. When the casino expanded their penny slot section with newer games that looked more exciting, Dorothy made what she thought was a smart financial decision to switch to penny denomination to make her money last longer. She figured that betting smaller amounts per spin would extend her playing time and reduce her overall losses. What actually happened was the opposite. The penny version of her new favorite games had significantly lower RTP programming, and despite betting smaller amounts per individual spin, she was now playing many more spins per hour on the faster cycling penny games. Her $200 bankroll that used to last nearly 2 hours started disappearing in 70 to 80 minutes. Over 6 months of playing primarily penny slots, Dorothy's actual documented losses increased by approximately 40% compared to her previous dollar denomination play, even though she felt like she was being more conservative with her per-spin betting. The casino operators know this pattern exists. A former slot operations manager described reviewing quarterly performance reports that specifically broke down hold percentages by denomination. These internal reports showed that penny denomination machines consistently produced higher revenue per square foot of casino floor space than their higher denomination counterparts, despite the lower absolute dollar amounts being wagered per spin. The psychological exploitation happens because players intuitively believe that betting smaller amounts equals losing less money, when the mathematical reality is that the lower RTP percentages combined with increased spin velocity creates exactly the opposite outcome. Casinos have every incentive to push penny slot expansion and to make the penny denomination sections the most visually attractive and newest game areas of their properties. Gaming regulations in most jurisdictions require casinos to make RTP information available on request, but they don't require prominent posting or denomination-specific disclosure at the machine itself. This means the average player has no practical way to discover that they're getting dramatically worse odds simply because of their denomination choice, even when playing a game title they recognize from higher denomination play. But denomination differences aren't the only way that casinos manipulate your money through information that's technically available but practically hidden. Secret number 6, the Players Club Card Con. Every major casino operation aggressively promotes their rewards program with promises of free play, complimentary meals, room discounts, and tier status benefits. What these marketing campaigns don't disclose is that the plastic card you're sliding into the machine before you play is tracking far more than just your points accumulation. Internal player tracking systems maintained by casino marketing departments monitor your complete playing patterns, document your loss tolerance thresholds, identify your emotional vulnerabilities, and flag specific behaviors that indicate high-value characteristics from the casino's extraction perspective. Former marketing managers who had direct access to these player tracking databases confirmed that the systems are specifically programmed to identify when individual players are showing what the industry calls reinvestment behavior, which means winning a payout and then immediately playing those winnings back into the same or different machines rather than cashing out. Once the system identifies you as someone who consistently reinvests wins, your player profile gets flagged for specific types of promotional offers designed to bring you back during periods when you might otherwise stay away. A former director of player development at a major regional casino described the actual process they used for A/B testing promotional offers based on tracked loss patterns. The system would automatically identify players who had experienced significant losing sessions, then randomly divide those players into test groups, receiving different promotional offers to measure which specific offers generated the highest return visit rate and subsequent play volume. This wasn't occasional targeted marketing. This was algorithmic manipulation of player behavior based on documented gambling patterns and loss tolerance data. The rewards that casinos promote so heavily as benefits of card membership are mathematically trivial compared to the money you're wagering to earn them. Industry standard player reward formulas typically return between 0.1 and 0.3% of your total amount wagered as redeemable comp value. That means for every $1,000 you cycle through a slot machine with your card inserted, you're earning between $1 and $3 in actual comp value. Robert was a regular slots player at a downtown Las Vegas property who typically visited twice a month. After a particularly brutal session where he lost just over $2,000 in an afternoon, he went home frustrated and convinced himself he needed to take a break from gambling. 3 days later, he received an email offer from the casino for $50 in free play, valid only for the next 72 hours. Robert interpreted this as the casino trying to make up for his bad luck and decided to return to use the free play offer. What Robert didn't understand was that the casino's player tracking system had automatically flagged his account based on the loss amount and the session data showing he'd left the property shortly after that significant loss. The algorithm had identified him as a potentially re-engageable player and triggered an automated promotional offer specifically calibrated to bring him back during the psychological window when he was most likely to return and continue playing. The $50 in free play cost the casino essentially nothing in actual cash, but Robert's return visit resulted in another $800 in documented losses, chasing additional wins after the free play was exhausted. The privacy invasion inherent in player tracking systems extends far beyond promotional targeting. These databases maintained detailed records of how much time you spend at specific game types, your average bet sizing, the exact moments during sessions when you increase or decrease your wagers, and even behavioral patterns like how quickly you react to wins versus losses based on the speed of your subsequent button presses. Former IT staff who maintain these systems confirm that some casino operators have sold anonymized versions of this data to slot machine manufacturers who use the information to refine game designs and bonus trigger frequencies. The player data gets stripped of personally identifying information, but retains all the behavioral and wagering pattern details that manufacturers need to optimize their games for maximum time on device and optimal hold percentages. Casino employees who worked with these tracking systems consistently reported feeling uncomfortable about the extent of behavioral monitoring. One former player development host described the experience as basically targeting people's weaknesses after watching the system flag players showing potential problem gambling indicators, then receiving instructions to contact those same players with offers specifically designed to encourage return visits. Before revealing secret number 7, and this is genuinely the one that actually made the source for this information, quit the industry entirely. I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe to this channel and let me know in the comments whether you use a player's club card when you gamble. Secret number 7, the oxygen and sensory manipulation. This particular revelation represents why the former casino employee providing this information ultimately walked away from a 6-figure career in the gaming industry. Casinos systematically engineer every single environmental factor on their gaming floors, specifically to keep you playing longer than you naturally would. Former facilities managers who maintained the environmental control systems have confirmed specific claims about how these systems operate in practice. Gaming areas receive increased oxygen levels pumped through the HVAC system, designed to keep you alert and awake for extended periods, beyond your normal fatigue threshold. Strategic scent deployment occurs through the same ventilation systems, with specific fragrances tested and selected based on research into which scents correlate with longer playing sessions. The lighting design throughout the casino eliminates any natural time awareness cues. You won't find clocks anywhere on the gaming floor, and windows are either completely absent or positioned so that natural light never reaches the slot machine areas. Sound engineering ensures that winning machines produce celebratory audio at significantly higher volumes than the relatively silent operation of losing spins, creating an auditory environment where the space constantly seems filled with winners. Even though the mathematical reality is that losses outnumber wins by massive margins at every moment. These environmental control systems represent capital investments of hundreds of thousands of dollars during casino construction and renovation projects. Internal financial justification reports that were reviewed during facilities planning meetings show that controlled environments increase average session time by 23 to 35% compared to gaming spaces with standard commercial HVAC and lighting. This increase in session duration directly translates to increased revenue because players who stay longer inevitably cycle more money through machines, and the house edge guarantees the casino profits from that extended play. The psychological warfare element of environmental manipulation is that every single sense you possess is being deliberately influenced to override your natural decision making processes and fatigue responses. Your circadian rhythm is disrupted by the absence of natural light cues. Your sense of time passage is eliminated by removing clocks and creating unchanging lighting conditions. Your alertness is artificially maintained by oxygen level manipulation. Your subconscious reactions are influenced by strategic scent deployment. Your perception of winning frequency is distorted by asymmetric sound engineering. Former employees report that even knowing exactly what the casino was doing with environmental controls, they would still lose track of time during their own shifts working on the gaming floor. One slot technician described finishing what he thought was a 4-hour maintenance shift, only to discover that nearly 7 hours had actually passed. The environmental manipulation affected staff just as effectively as it affected players. The ethical breaking point for multiple former employees came from watching elderly players remain at machines for 12 or more hours in these carefully controlled environments. Medical incidents involving players who hadn't eaten, hadn't properly hydrated, and hadn't rested for dangerous periods became regular occurrences. The industry defense of these practices consistently frames environmental control as simply creating a pleasant atmosphere for guests, but the internal documentation makes clear these are calculated systems for exploiting human biology to maximize revenue extraction. And the environmental manipulation works specifically because of what casinos have programmed into the machines themselves regarding secret number 8. Secret number 8, the loss disguised as win feature. This represents the single most insidious innovation that modern slot machine manufacturers have introduced in the past 15 years. Multi-line games now routinely pay out amounts that are less than your total bet, while simultaneously celebrating with sounds, graphics, and animations that trigger the exact same psychological response as actual winning spins. The technical explanation reveals how this deception operates. You're betting $2.50 across 50 pay lines, which means 5 cents per line. The reels spin and you hit a combination that pays 35 times your line bet on one of those 50 lines, which equals $1.75. The machine erupts with celebration sounds, winning animations play across the screen. Your credit meter increases and your brain registers this as a win. Except you just lost 75 cents on that spin, because your total bet was $2.50 and you only received $1.75 back. Internal design documents from major slot manufacturers, documents that were reviewed during regulatory compliance processes, literally refer to these programmed outcomes as losses disguised as wins, often abbreviated as LDWs in technical specifications. Research that the manufacturers themselves conducted and presented during game certification shows that these LDW outcomes trigger essentially the same dopamine response in players' brains as legitimate winning spins. The psychological exploitation happens because your brain cannot quickly process the mathematics of 50-line betting while simultaneously experiencing celebration cues from the machine. You register the sounds and graphics as win indicators, and the positive emotional response happens before your conscious mind calculates that you actually just lost money on that spin. Former game designers who worked for major manufacturers have confirmed that 30 to 40% of modern slot machine wins are actually net losses when compared to the total bet amount. This means that nearly half the time you think you're winning, you're actually losing, and the machine is deliberately programmed to make you feel good about that loss. The real world consequence is that players dramatically underestimate how much money they're actually losing because they're psychologically categorizing LDW spins as wins rather than losses. Karen sat at a penny multi line machine at a tribal casino property for 90 minutes, believing she was winning constantly because the machine kept celebrating and her credit meter kept going up. When she finally cashed out and checked her voucher amount against what she'd originally bought in for, she discovered she was down $300. The cognitive dissonance was so severe that she initially believed the machine must have malfunctioned because her experience of the session was that she'd been winning the majority of her spins. This programming is technically legal because you did receive a payout on those spins, even though the payout was less than what you bet. Gaming regulations focus on whether the RNG operates randomly and whether long-term RTP percentages match certified specifications. There's no legal requirement that machines differentiate between wins that exceed your bet versus wins that return less than your bet. Former casino employees describe the guilt of watching people smile and celebrate while actively losing their money, unable to explain that the machine was deliberately programmed to create that exact confusion. The frequency of LDW programming has increased by over 300% in the past decade, as manufacturers discovered how effectively this design element extends playing sessions and increases hold percentages. Compare this to older three-reel mechanical slots, where the outcome was completely transparent. You either won more than you bet or you lost your bet with no confusion possible. As bad as losses disguised as wins are for player awareness, secret number 9 shows how casinos manipulate your perception even before you sit down at a machine. Secret number 9, the advertised jackpot lie. Those massive progressive jackpot displays that dominate casino floors with their multi-million-dollar figures flashing in bright LEDs represent one of the most misleading marketing tactics the gaming industry has perfected. The advertised jackpot amount bears almost no relationship to your actual realistic chance of winning that money, and casino regulations deliberately allow this disconnect to exist. Former compliance officers who reviewed regulatory filings confirmed that gaming law requires casinos to post return to player percentages somewhere on property, but there's absolutely no requirement to disclose the actual odds of hitting the top advertised prize. The mathematical breakdown of how this deception operates reveals the scale of the manipulation. Megabucks, the most famous wide-area progressive slot system in Nevada, routinely advertises jackpots exceeding $10 million. The actual odds of hitting that advertised jackpot are approximately 1 in 50 million spins. To put that probability in context that human brains can actually process, you are roughly 8 times more likely to be struck by lightning in any given year than you are to hit the Megabucks jackpot during a typical playing session. A former compliance officer who spent 6 years reviewing slot performance data for a major Las Vegas casino operator revealed that the average time between Megabucks jackpots at a single property ranged from 7 to 12 years. Some locations went 15 years between jackpots despite having multiple Megabucks machines running continuously. The mathematical deception goes deeper when you examine how the advertised progressive jackpot relates to the machine's overall return to player percentage. Internal PR sheets show that 99% of a progressive machine's RTP comes from small and medium wins that players hit during regular play. Less than 1% of the certified RTP actually comes from the massive advertised jackpot that dominates the marketing and draws players to the machine. This means you could play a Megabucks machine your entire life, experiencing the actual programmed RTP through small wins and losses, and never come remotely close to hitting the advertised jackpot that convinced you to play that specific machine. Michael was a regular player who became fixated on Megabucks after watching someone win $14 million on a news broadcast. Over 2 years, he invested roughly $40,000 specifically into Megabucks machines at his regular casino, convinced that the size of the jackpot justified the investment. During those 2 years of dedicated play, his largest single win was just under $500. He never triggered the top-level progressive bonus, never came close to the combination required for the advertised jackpot, and ultimately lost the vast majority of his $40,000 investment, chasing a prize with odds he never fully understood. Casinos aggressively push progressive slots specifically because they generate higher hold percentages than standard machines, while the massive jackpot advertising draws crowds and creates excitement that benefits the entire gaming floor. Linked progressive systems where multiple casinos share the same jackpot pool make the odds even worse for players at any single location, because you're competing against thousands of other players across dozens of properties for that one massive prize. Contractual arrangements between casinos and progressive system operators have been leaked through regulatory filings, and these contracts reveal that casinos guarantee manufacturers minimum hold percentage targets on progressive games. Some contracts specify that if the progressive system doesn't maintain at least a 15% hold over a quarterly period, the casino receives rebates or adjustments to their leasing fees. This creates a financial incentive structure where everyone profits except the players funding the progressive jackpot. Former slot operations employees report that they received specific training on how to promote progressive jackpots to players. The training emphasized talking about the current jackpot amount and how life-changing that money would be, while completely avoiding any discussion of odds or probability. One former floor supervisor described being explicitly instructed during training sessions to redirect player questions about odds by refocusing the conversation on the excitement of the jackpot amount and recent winners at other properties. The comparison to state lottery systems makes the casino progressive deception even more apparent. When you purchase a lottery ticket, the odds of winning the jackpot are printed directly on the ticket and prominently displayed at the point of purchase. Lottery organizations are required by law to publish exact odds for every prize tier. Slot machines have no such requirement. The progressive jackpot can be effectively impossible to win, and the casino has no obligation to inform you of that reality before you start feeding money into the machine. And this brings us to the final secret, the one that actually explains everything else you've learned and reveals the fundamental truth about how casinos view players who win. Secret number 10. The casino doesn't want you to win big. This represents the ultimate secret that ties together every other manipulation and deception discussed throughout this information. Casino systems are specifically programmed to flag significant winners for increased scrutiny and systematic discouragement. Former surveillance staff who monitored gaming floor activity from casino control rooms confirm specific protocols that activate when players hit large jackpots or accumulate significant winning sessions. Every jackpot requiring a hand pay, which is any win over $1,200 that can't be paid directly by the machine, gets entered into a centralized database that tracks your winning history across multiple visits. Players who hit multiple hand-pay jackpots within short time periods receive automatic flags in the system that trigger management attention. Large winners consistently report experiencing noticeably slower service after significant wins, reduced or eliminated comp offers despite increased play volume, and subtle changes in how casino staff interact with them. Former player development hosts have confirmed receiving explicit instructions to adjust comp formulas for players whose accounts showed significant winning sessions, effectively punishing success by reducing the rewards offered for the same level of play. Some casino operators have been accused of adjusting machines near recent large jackpots, though the legality of this practice remains questionable and difficult to prove. Players who demonstrate consistent winning patterns, even modest wins that accumulate over time, report being approached by floor managers who suggest they might enjoy other entertainment options. The property offers, which represents coded language for discouraging continued slot play. Technical surveillance capabilities allow casino operators to identify players whose overall win-loss record approaches break even or shows net positive results. These players receive systematic discouragement through reduced service quality, eliminated promotional offers, and in extreme cases, direct suggestions to take breaks from gambling. The fundamental reason for this systematic discouragement is that casinos require steady net losses from their player base, not the volatility that significant winners introduce. The perfect customer from a casino's perspective wins occasionally, wins enough to feel encouraged and return, but maintains consistent net losses over time that generate reliable revenue. A player named Susan hit a $75,000 progressive jackpot on a Dragon Link machine at her regular casino property. She returned 2 weeks later excited to continue playing with part of her winnings, but immediately noticed changes in how the property treated her. Her Players Club benefits had been restructured in ways that reduced her comp earning rate. Machines she typically played seemed consistently occupied during her visits, something that hadn't been an issue previously. Floor staff who had previously been friendly and attentive became distant and perfunctory in their interactions. After 3 visits where she felt increasingly unwelcome, Susan stopped returning to that property and moved her play to a competitor casino. This represents exactly the outcome the original property desired because they'd rather lose a big winner than risk additional significant payouts to that same player. Former pit bosses who supervised table games report receiving similar instructions about players who won consistently at blackjack or other games. One former supervisor stated explicitly that management told him to make big winners feel uncomfortable through subtle service degradation, so they would cash out and leave rather than continuing to play. The industry publicly celebrates winners through marketing and social media, but the internal reality directly contradicts this public image. Casinos need some winners for social proof and marketing purposes, but they need those winners to be rare, random, and ideally from out-of-town visitors who won't return frequently. Local regular players who win significantly become problems to be managed and discouraged rather than valued customers to be rewarded. The truth that the house always wins isn't just a mathematical certainty from the programmed edge in every game. It's an actively enforced policy implemented through systematic tracking, behavioral analysis, and strategic discouragement of anyone who threatens that fundamental principle. These 10 secrets represent years of insider knowledge accumulated across thousands of hours working directly with slot machines, reviewing internal casino documents, and witnessing firsthand how the gaming industry systematically extracts money from players who never understand the full scope of what they're facing. The placement strategy affects your actual mathematical odds based solely on where you choose to sit. The hot and cold machine myth keeps you locked into losing propositions while chasing patterns that don't exist. Near-miss programming creates false hope through deliberately deceptive visual displays. Bonus rounds are predetermined theater that makes you believe you have control over outcomes that were decided before you ever touch the screen. Denomination selection dramatically changes your return percentage on identical games. Players' Club cards track your vulnerabilities and exploit your weaknesses through targeted manipulation. Environmental controls override your natural biology to keep you playing past reasonable limits. Losses disguised as wins fool your brain into celebrating while you're actually losing money. Advertised jackpots hide mathematically impossible odds behind life-changing dollar amounts. And the casino systematically discourages anyone who threatens their profit model by winning too much or too often. When you understand how all 10 of these secrets work together, you see the complete system of extraction that casinos have engineered. The house edge provides the mathematical certainty of long-term profit. Psychological manipulation amplifies that edge by keeping you playing longer and betting more than you intended. And environmental control ensures you stay in that manipulated state for extended periods. And this represents guaranteed casino profit built on information asymmetry, where they know everything about how these systems operate, and players know virtually nothing beyond what they can observe on the surface. This information creates genuine discomfort because many people enjoy gambling as entertainment, and learning the extent of the manipulation behind that entertainment fundamentally changes the experience. The point isn't to tell anyone they should never gamble or that visiting a casino makes you foolish. The point is that you deserve to gamble with complete awareness of what you're actually facing. Knowledge represents your only meaningful defense against systematic manipulation designed by teams of psychologists, mathematicians, and software engineers who spent decades optimizing these systems for maximum revenue extraction. Slot machines are entertainment with a cost, not an income opportunity or a realistic path to financial gain. When you approach them with that framework, understanding that the cost of that entertainment is the mathematical certainty of long-term losses, you can make informed decisions about whether that cost is worth the experience you're purchasing. The statistical reality that casino operators hope you never discover is that less than 5% of regular slot players show net positive results over any significant time period. Industry research that manufacturers conducted for game design optimization confirms this percentage, though it's research they have no incentive to publicize. The reason some former employees eventually share this information, despite non-disclosure agreements and industry pressure, comes from the accumulated moral weight of watching the same people lose everything over months and years. After spending enough time watching players who became friends lose their homes, damage their marriages, and exhaust their retirement savings, some employees reach a point where remaining silent becomes more difficult than the professional consequences of speaking. The specific memory that represents the breaking point for the source of this information was an elderly woman in her late 70s who systematically played away her late husband's life insurance payout over 6 months because the machine's near-miss programming and losses disguised as wins convinced her she was about to hit big. She told floor staff that the machine was telling her the big win was coming soon, that she just needed to keep playing a little longer. By the time family members discovered what was happening, she'd lost over $200,000. Sharing this information now involves real risk despite the passage of time since leaving the industry. Gaming companies actively pursue legal action against former employees who disclose internal information. Professional blacklisting within the hospitality industry makes future employment difficult. Reputation attacks and attempts to discredit whistleblowers are standard responses. But enough time has passed and the industry has only become more manipulative with each new technological innovation that creates additional opportunities for psychological exploitation. Gaming regulatory commissions that theoretically exist to protect players consistently prioritize casino interests in practice, approving every new manipulation technique that manufacturers introduce as long as the basic RNG functions randomly and certified RTP percentages are maintained. Everyone who works in the industry becomes complicit through their continued participation. Every dealer, every technician, every manager who stays quiet about what they know contributes to the system's continuation. The personal accountability for over a decade of participation can't be erased, but information sharing represents a form of partial atonement for years of silence. If this information provided genuine value in understanding what you're actually facing when you play slot machines, please subscribe to this channel so more people can access what the gaming industry actively works to suppress. Let me know in the comments which secret shocked you most, or share your own experiences with these manipulation tactics. Share this video with anyone who gambles because they deserve to know the truth about systems designed to exploit their psychology and biology for profit. Future content will break down specific machine titles and identify which games give you the best mathematical chance if you choose to play. Upcoming videos will also reveal exactly how casino loyalty programs actually operate behind the marketing promises. The gaming industry will likely attempt to discredit this information through various channels, which is exactly how you can verify its accuracy. Knowledge won't guarantee you'll win when you gamble, but ignorance absolutely guarantees you'll lose more than necessary to systems you never fully understood.